The defending national championship winning Ohio State Buckeyes open up camp today. They will finish things up on April 12th. And what a spring this is going to be for Ryan Day and company. I might be more excited about this spring than I was about last spring. Why? Because last year I kind of knew what I was going to get. There wasn't a lot of question marks surrounding Ohio State. I kind of knew who the starters were going to be. I knew what the additions would look like. I knew the depth, and I knew what the quarterback competition, I kind of felt like it was going to play out the way it played out, where Will Howard ultimately became the guy. This year's version of the Buckeyes, very, very different. They had to replace multiple coordinators, with Chip Kelly leaving to become the offensive coordinator of the Raiders. You have to replace Jim Knowles, who leaves to go to become the defensive coordinator at Penn State. So, people will say, well, yeah, come on, it's going to be Ryan Day's offense. Yeah, I agree with that completely. Brian Hartline been taught by the best. Brian Hartline's going to do an amazing job. I'm not at all concerned about the play calling on game day that the Buckeye offense is going to receive. But I am curious, how much does it change from what Chip Kelly did in the past? How much will Ryan Day be involved on a play-to-play basis calling it for the Buckeyes? I don't think he's going to, but I think he'll maybe be a little bit heavier-handed with what they are offensively, knowing who he hired to become his defensive coordinator in Matt Patricia, who I would think he's probably just going to say, all right, you've been a head coach in the NFL. You've done this long enough. You're good. Go do your thing. So I like the staff dynamic that we're getting around Ohio State. Kind of a youth movement, a lot of young guys. They're going to relate to the players, but it might force Ryan Day to be a little bit more hands-on on the offensive side than he was a year ago. So I'll be curious to see if that dynamic plays out in the spring. But the main thing is, while the coaches are new, you have 14 new starters that need to be figured out, including guys that have been around for a really long time. I mean, Emeka Egbuka had played a ton of football. Donovan Jackson, been around forever. JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer. And these guys have all played a lot of football there in Columbus. They're all gone. So they are going to be outrageously talented. They always are. That should come as no surprise. Ohio State seldom takes a backseat to anybody when it comes to top-tier talent on the roster. But they will be really inexperienced in a bunch of different places. Will that inexperience factor in whatsoever to their performance and consistency on a regular basis? I'll be curious to find that out. Look, Will Howard, I still don't think Will Howard was celebrated enough with what he did for the Buckeyes last year. I know Buckeye fans came around. At first, it was maybe not as all in. Then he played great down the stretch, and then really didn't like how he played against Michigan, understandably so. Then he got hot in the playoffs and was outstanding throughout the postseason. But I look now, and I look at the quarterback spot. I think Will Howard's shoes are pretty big, and having to fill those shoes will not be easy. The guy that's in the best position to become the starting quarterback is Julian Sand, number 2 overall recruit in the country from a couple of years ago, had time to kind of sit back, watch, learn, develop, get physically more mature, and kind of see how a veteran would handle what Will Howard handled. And I think watching Will Howard go through what he went through last year is incredibly valuable to a young quarterback. Look, it's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows as the starter. You're going to have some really dark days. How do you handle that? And Julian Sand learned that last year and saw Will Howard at the end of the season be crowned a national championship as a result of his persistence. So I think Julian Sand's in a great spot, but he will have to beat out Tavian St. Clair. There are going to be some other Lincoln Keenholz. I still think it's going to be Julian Sand. I think you guys probably think that it's going to be that as well. But how much pressure will they put on Julian Sand's shoulders? I think it's going to be an offense that is going to really pride itself on trying to run the football. They went out, they got C.J. Donaldson from West Virginia. While it was not some outrageous production like we saw with the addition of Quinshon Judkins last year, Donaldson's big, he's physical, he can get downhill, and has been productive at the Power 5 level in the past. I'm not sure he's going to be Henderson and Judkins, but he can at least take some of the pressure off the quarterback position because that's where the focus will be. here heading into the spring.